Okay. Well, we are here at Brown Farm, Connecticut. It's Scotland, of all places. And what we're going to do is to show a setup of compost teas. Compost teas is an organic technique to be able to extend the value of compost, or vermicompost, which is very rich in terms of not only nutrients but also of microbes. Microbes that are in the soil, microbes that provide a lot of benefits to the growth of plants. Not only they are decomposers, but also they promote growth through hormones. They also compete with pathogens to improve soil structure and to help in water retention. And there's so many benefits that we have been learning along the way. Now, this technique has to do with taking vermicompost or high quality compost and creating conditions for those microbes to proliferate, to grow. And we do that by putting them in a solution, in this case is water, and providing them with amendments, foods for them that are bacteria food or fungal foods that will allow them to grow and to reproduce. And there's certain conditions they will have to pay attention to. Not only the recipe in terms of its proportion to the water, but also we have to pay attention to the temperature of the water, and we have to run it in on a time that allows them to grow within a period of 18 to 24 hours. The winter is kind of challenging because you have these abrupt changes from the time that you put your water in to the time that it's being taken out to the time that it's going to be put into the soil. Microbes life to the optimal temperature for them to proliferate is between 55 and 75 degrees. Beyond that or below that, they die or they become dormant. So the effectiveness of them to be viable in the media where they're supposed to generate an impact is critical. So here we are doing another experiment, is to apply compost tea in a high tunnel in the winter time. And the farmers will tell us over the experience. They have been working on this high tunnel for 3 years now. So they'll be able to see if this type of application will help them in building up more organic matter within the high tunnels. I'll leave it to you to explain now exactly the methodology that we follow to be able to prepare the tea.
All right, so here we are. It is 25 degrees, so a little cold. I don't think we've ever brewed compost tea at this temperature, but the fact that it's being used in a high tunnel and that we have nice warm water here, it's now 85 degrees, and these materials have been kept at room temperature. We are going to make it as we usually do with the exact same recipe. So what the recipe we're using is for 50 gallons that can then be used and changed depending on how much water you are using. So for this 50-gallon brewer, we're going to start with 10 pounds of worm castings. And as Domingo was saying, the reason to use worm castings is, if you look at it under the microscope, it has the most diversity and number of beneficial microbes, which is what we want to multiply. So we're putting this is a 14-pound bag, so we're going to put everything except 4 pounds in there. All right, so that should do it.
So something that's key here, we have to make sure that once we introduce this into the water, that we help the content of these vermicompost to be able to get into the solution. And by that, we can massage it from within and trying to make sure that what we're trying to liberate is all those microbes that are entangled in the structure of the organic matter to get released into the water solution and be able to grow in that media while being fed with the amendments that we're providing.
So for amendments, we selected amendments that will feed bacteria and fungi. So for example, this liquid kelp is a really good food for both bacteria and fungi. And what we're going to do is a cup of kelp, and then it's a 4-to-1 dilution of kelp and fish hydrolysate. The reason we use fish hydrolysate is it's really good fungal food, which is generally most of composts that we look at and soils are bacterial dominant, especially if they've been disturbed. So we want to encourage the fungal because you want to have that balance of bacteria and fungi. So I'm going to put a 1/4 cup of fish in there. And then I'm going to do a splash of the humic acid, which helps to bind the nutrients. It also, if you are dealing with chlorinated water, it will neutralize the chlorine. So those are your ingredients. And then this, we're going to plug this in and we're going to get it bubbling, and then we will add this mixture and then the castings on top. So I'll start by plugging it in. What we have learned from test trials this past year is that it is important to make sure that the microbes that are bound to the organic matter in the compost or in the castings are released into the solution. We do this by massaging the castings in a 5-gallon bucket before we add them to the brewer. When you have a full bag of castings, it might be difficult for those microbes to move freely. For that reason, we now make sure we massage the castings in the bag, carefully breaking up larger aggregates and gently loosening up the castings. This helps to release the microbes into the water solution. We have found that this leads to greater amounts of microbes being released into the water solution at the start of the brew, so that the microbes can start feeding on the amendments right away and multiply in that solution throughout the 24-hour brewing period.
One thing that is challenging the winter, and I want to reiterate this again, is how do you keep that microbe within that optimal range where they are vital? So here's the concern of the impact of the temperature that's in the water, on the water solution, and then when it comes to the soil. So paying attention to the temperature right now, and then the temperature when it's ready to be taken out from the brewer. Understand how much temperature you're losing, within those 24 hours is key to understand, because then you can make adjustment, whether you are warming up the whole trailer or you're warming up more the condition of your soil in your greenhouse. I've been told that it's around 55 degrees right now, the soil temperature. So below that, it's a concern of how that will be choking the microbes and again the viability. So we're learning from this, and we learn from the farm here of how it went through the application. I understand that the farm is going to run it here for the winter time, so we'll see the results at the end of this experiment.
So keep in mind, we've gone through this 400 micron mesh bag, but it's been going to bubble for 24 hours. So the chances of small particles getting released can happen. So what you can do with another 400 micron mesh bag is filter it. So imagine now it's 24 hours later. We are going to use this bag and run it through that. So any sediment will get picked up and collected in this bag. If you're going to use the 4-gallon sprayer, again, the 400 micron mesh bag is your friend, because you want to make sure there's no sediment. You don't want to get it clogged. So we will just put this inside and fill our sprayer like that. And then when it's filled, you can clean this out. Speaking of cleaning, if at the end of your bubbling and you've used all of the compost tea in your gardens and wherever, you're going to find that there's this biofilm. As we know, bacteria is sticky, and it's going to form a film wherever it has landed, and there'll be bacteria stuck there. So if you let it dry, it's very difficult to remove it. So you want to, as soon as you empty the brewer, you want to clean it. We used to use hydrogen peroxide to make sure we got it good and clean, but there's a chance that you don't clean off all the hydrogen peroxide, and of course that'll kill any new life next time you want to brew. So what we do now, as soon as that compost tea brewer and sprayer is finished, while it's still wet, you want to get a hose, put it on jet, and just make sure you clean all of that biofilm off. Having a very simple brewer makes it easy, so that you can easily undo this and spray into that as well. And the water, once it's empty, will also wash any biofilm you might have. In terms of the sprayer, once it's finished, I would add clean water and then spray it again so that the clean water goes through the whole hose. And then dump it and rinse it once more and dump it. So that's how you clean a sprayer. All right, thanks to all of you for being here and for making this happen. And we'd like a full report on how the compost tea did through this winter.